Dear friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Ajay Chandel from Mittal School of Business, lovely Professional University, Punjab. I'm going to present before you Module 9 titled Service Gap Analysis under the paper Tourism and Hospitality Marketing. After completing this module, you will be able to understand the importance of service quality, understand the concept of service quality gaps, understand strategies to bridge in service quality gaps. Introduction. This ever-changing global environment has posed numerous threats and challenges to businesses. Many businesses are facing heated competition that forces them to search for competitive advantage, efficiency, and profitable ways to differentiate themselves from competitors. In both domestic and international markets, the service concept is gaining in importance in parallel with economic development and increasing standards of living. In some businesses, such as travel, tourism, and catering, the delivery of high-quality services to consumers is increasingly considered as a key factor affecting the overall performance of firms. Not surprisingly, service quality measurement has become the main subject of several empirical and conceptual studies in services marketing. Managers in the service sector are under increasing pressure to demonstrate that their services are customer focused and that continuous performance improvement is being delivered. Given the financial and resource constraints under which service organizations must manage, it is essential that customer expectations are properly understood and measured. Thereafter, from the customer's perspective, any gaps in service quality must be identified. This information must then be used to assist managers in identifying cost-effective ways of bridging in service quality gaps and of prioritizing which gaps to focus on. A critical decision given scarce resources. Service quality. Service quality is a concept that has been a continuous area of interest and debate in academic literature because of the problems faced in both defining and measuring it, with no overall consensus emerging on either. There is plethora of different definitions as to what is meant by service quality. One of the most commonly used notion defines service quality as the extent to which a service meets customers' needs or expectations. Service quality can hence be considered as the difference between expected and perceived service quality. If customer expectations are greater than perceived performance, then perceived service quality is less than satisfactory, which leads to customer dissatisfaction. A brief on various definitions of service quality as proposed by various researchers is displayed below. Sidden et al. In 2001. Service quality is the understanding of the customers and meet their needs accordingly by managing service and delivery to satisfy customers. Caruana in 2002. Service quality is the comparison between what the customers expect and the perception of the service they received. Nath and Zheng in 2004. Service quality is the measurement of how an organization serves its customers in light of the expectations of their perceived service. Muhammad and Al-Hamdani in 2011. Service quality as perceived by customers definitely indicates what is left of their previous perception of the service quality and the level of their satisfaction with the current performance of the service. Parshuraman, Zithmel, and Berry in 1985 defined service quality as the comparison between customer expectations and perceptions of service. Service quality and customer satisfaction. There is a never-ending debate on the relationship between the service quality and its impact on customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction can be defined as the result of a cognitive and affective evaluation, where some comparison standard is compared to the actual perceived performance. The fundamental of marketing concept for customer satisfaction lies within satisfying customer needs. Satisfaction is most commonly described in terms of a disconfirmation approach, which describes it as the variation between a customer's pre-purchase expectations and post-purchase perceptions of the actual service received. A satisfied customer might be willing to pay higher price of the products and services they are aiming for. Satisfied consumers tend to be loyal to the company and are more likely to have a high customer lifetime value. Understanding customer satisfaction is important in the sense that dissatisfied customers not only can complain but rather can simply purchase from another service provider or might even indulge in spreading negative word of mouth. The research has shown that if a customer is satisfied with a brand and service, will say it to 5 other likely customers, while an unsatisfied customer will inform it to 9 other likely customers. Dirac and Habib in 2010. It is hence imperative for any service organization to try to develop the ways so that customers can be satisfied with its service quality, because both satisfied and unsatisfied customers can have an effect on the brand loyalty and competitive advantages. However debatable, most of the academic literature and practitioners strongly believe in service quality to be a very important determinant of customer satisfaction, which leads to superior financial performance and sustainable competitive advantage in service industry. Hence, there is a need to identify service quality gaps and also a need to devise strategies to bridge in these gaps, working towards an excellent service experience. Service quality gaps. Delivering superior value to the customer is an ongoing concern of managers in each industry. This not only includes the actual physical product but customer service as well. Products not offering good quality customer service that doesn't meet the expectations of consumers are difficult to sustain in a competitive market. This becomes even more important for firms in a service industry. Serviqual service quality gap model is a tool to identify and measure gaps in service quality that can be used by managers across all service industries. The aim of this model is to identify the gaps between customer expectation and the actual services provided at different stages of service delivery, bridging in the gap and improve the customer service. This model was developed by Parshuraman, Zithmel and Berry in 1985 and identifies 5 different gaps. Gap 1, the knowledge gap, the gap between consumer expectations and management perception. The gap 1, knowledge gap, is the difference between the customer's expectations of the service provided by the service provider and the company's provision of the service. In other words, this gap arises due to the difference between management's perceptions of customer expectations and the translation into service procedures and specifications. In this case, managers are unaware or fail to correctly interpret the customer's expectation in relation to the company's services or products. Presence of gap 1 means companies are trying to meet wrong or invalid customer needs. Gap 2, the policy gap, the gap between management's perception and service quality specification. Gap 2 represents management's inability to correctly translate service policy into rules and guidelines for employees. Some service companies experience difficulties translating consumer expectation into specific service quality delivery regime. This might be due to poor service design, failure to maintain and continually update their provision of good customer service, or simply lack of standardization. This gap may lead consumers seeking a similar product with better service elsewhere. Gap 3, the delivery gap, the gap between service quality specification and service delivery. This gap exposes the weakness in employees' performance and their ability to perform as per specifications. Organizations with a delivery gap may specify the service required to support consumers, but have subsequently failed to train their employees to deliver as per the service specifications and to put good processes and guidelines in action. As a result, employees are unable to manage consumers' needs as specified. Gap 4, the communication gap, the gap between service delivery and external communication. Sometimes promises made by companies through advertising, media, and other external communication means raise customers' expectations way too high. When overpromising in advertising does not match the actual service delivery, it creates a communication gap. Consumers feel disappointed and cheated because the promised service does not match the expected service, leaving customers disgruntled. Gap 5, the customer gap, the gap between customer expectations and customer perceptions. Gap 5 is the difference between customer expectations and customers' perceptions. Customer expectation is what the customer expects from the service firm according to available resources such as external communication, advertisements, and other promotional resources, and is also influenced by the customer's cultural background, family lifestyle, personality, demographics, experience with similar products, and information available online. Customer perception is totally subjective and is based on the customer's actual interaction with the product or service in a purchase or usage situation. Perception is derived from the customer's satisfaction of the specific product or service and the quality of service delivery. Gap 5 is the most important gap, and in an ideal world, the customer's expectations would be identical to the customer's perception, which means having no gap in a customer-oriented strategy, delivering a quality service for a specific product should be based on a clear understanding of the target market's expectations. Understanding customer needs and knowing customer expectations is the only best way to close the gap. Reasons behind service quality gaps. Each of the specific gaps influences the entire perception of service quality and customer satisfaction. Here are basic reasons which cause the service quality gaps in the service companies. Gap 1. This gap represents the incompatibility between the management and customers. The basic reason of appearance of this gap is the inability of the management to understand the customer's actual expectations. Hence, this gap is actually the result of wrong interpretation of information concerning customers' expectations, non-existence of demand analysis, and inadequate perception of the relationship between the company and its customers. The important reason for the emergence of this gap is the existence of too many levels of management in the organization which restrain and alter certain levels of information about the expectations and demands of customers. Moreover, not understanding the customer's expectations can be as well the result of a bad management of customers' complaints and a poor feedback system. Even when the problems concerning the mentioned variations are overcome, that is, when managers have understood the market demands, customers' expectations, problems may arise in the very process of realization. The company, even after knowing the wishes of its customers, might not be able to satisfy them. For example, management can adequately evaluate the time that guests are willing to spend when checking in at the reception of a hotel, but do not have enough staff to fulfill those expectations. Gap 2. Reasons that result in Gap 2, that is, variation between perceptions of the management about the expectations of customers and specifications of service quality, are as following. Poorly designed services, unclear and undefined service design, poorly designed service design, lack of defined standards from customers' point of view. Standards are not defined respecting customers' demands. There is no procedural management focusing upon customers' demand. Lack of formalized processes needed for installation of adequate goals of service quality. Insufficient service environment and physical elements. Failure to develop perceptible values in accordance with customers' expectations. Service ambience is not created to suit the needs of customers and employees. Inadequacy when innovating the ambience and undertaking necessary preparations. Problems can be caused by the lack of resources, growing demand, and inadequate engagement of company management. Gap 3. When managers have identified and defined the standards of service quality in accordance with the customer's expectations, the difference between service quality specifications and the service actually delivered might lead to Gap 3. The reasons for the emergence of Gap 3 are as following. Oversights in the human resources management, unclear roles and conflicts of interests, poor system of evaluation and praising, lack of teamwork, inadequate jurisdiction, badly harmonized offer and demand, failure to soften the demanding extremes, poor choice of customer segments, excessive reliance upon the price when balancing the demand. It is evident that managers are able to define specifications of services based upon the customer's demand in this gap. However, the employees are not able to deliver the services in an adequate way as specified by the customer. For example, management of an Indian theme-based restaurant plans that a specified food item order needs to be delivered within 10 minutes, while the waiter delivers the same order after the period specified. Possible reasons for that might be conflicts between the staff, poor interdepartmental cooperation between the kitchen staff and the other restaurant staff, conflict with management, and customers conflict with management and customers, unskilled staff, inadequate system of motivation, obsolete kitchen equipment, too much crowd in the restaurant, etc. Gap 4. Inability to keep a promise that a service company gives about the service quality using different forms of market communication is crucial for the creation of customers' expectations, which under adverse conditions lead to gap 4. The main reason for not fulfilling these promises, which leads to emergence of gap 4, are as following: lack of integrated service marketing communications, inability to observe and evaluate each piece of external communication independently. Interactive marketing is not part of communication plan. Lack of internal marketing, inefficient management of customers' expectations, lack of management of customers' expectations through all forms of internal and external communication, inability to educate customers about what to expect and what not to, unreasonable promises, unreasonable and impossible promises in marketing communications, poor communication between people responsible for promotional campaign and people responsible for operational activities, insufficient communication between people responsible for retail and people responsible for operational activities, differences in policies and procedures between certain branches of the same service company, unreasonable promises and inadequate management of customers' expectations would lead to the appearance of too demanding customers with very high expectations. This results in offering services below the expected level, which leads to the creation of negative perception of the quality amongst the customers. If any of the above mentioned gaps or any combination of these occur, the gap 5 or the gap of customers is inevitable to occur. It appears as the difference between the expectations of customers concerning the services and their perception of the service received in the company itself. Strategies to bridge in service quality gap. Below mentioned are some actions that need to be taken to minimize the service quality gaps. Gap 1. Understanding customer expectations. Managers must work towards getting a better understanding of customer expectations through more frequent complaint analysis and consumer research. Some steps may involve increasing direct interaction between managers and customers to improve understanding of customer expectation, improving and streamlining upward communication from contact personnel to management, reducing the number of levels between the customers and policy makers, turning information and insights into action with a zeal to serve customers better. Gap 2. Prescription. Establish the right service quality standards. Managers must work towards setting right service quality standards in light of the customer expectations. Some steps may involve ensuring top management displays ongoing commitment to quality as defined from the customer's point of view. Putting customers' expectations first is the key. Getting middle management to set, communicate, and reinforce customer-oriented service standards for their work units to create a culture where customer and their interest is kept at priority. Training managers in the skills needed to lead staff to deliver quality service holistically, enabling staff to be adaptive and open to new ways of doing business that overcome barriers to delivering quality service. Standardizing repetitive or duplicate activities to ensure consistency and reliability by substituting hard technology for human contact and improving work methods. Establishing clear and concrete service quality objectives, goals that are challenging, realistic, and specially designed to meet customer expectations. Clarifying which tasks have the biggest impact on quality and should receive the highest priority. Ensuring that employees understand and accept goals and priorities in their true sense. Measuring performance on a regular basis and providing feedback. Rewarding managers and employees for attaining quality goals. Gap 3. Prescription. Ensure that service performance meets standards. Clarify employees their roles and responsibilities in order to avoid any ambiguity and mismatch, ensuring all employees understand how their jobs contribute to overall customer satisfaction and hence adds to the service firm's profitability. Matching employees to jobs by selecting for the abilities and skills needed to perform each job well. Training employees to impart skills needed to perform their assigned tasks effectively. Developing innovative recruitment and retention methods to attract the best people and build loyalty and a sense of belongingness. Enhancing employee performance by selecting the most appropriate and reliable technology and equipment to help them do their jobs effectively. Educating employees about customer expectations, perceptions, and problems. Training employees about interpersonal skills, especially for dealing with customers under stressful conditions like in peak seasons or times. Eliminating role conflict among employees as much as possible by involving them in the process of setting standards, thereby co-creating service performance standards. Training employees in prioritizing jobs and time management, measuring employee performance and link compensation and recognition with delivery of quality service. Developing reward systems that are meaningful, timely, simple, accurate, and fair, thereby motivating staff to give their best. Empowering managers and employees in their own field by pushing decision-making power down the organization. Allow them greater discretion in the methods they use to reach goals. Gifting employees with a little autonomy brings in motivation and improves employee morale, adding to the service quality. Ensuring that employees working at internal support jobs provide quality service to customer contact personnel, under all circumstances. Dealing with disgruntled customers with a smile must be the motto. Building the trend of teamwork in the organizational culture so that employees work well together and use team rewards as incentives, treating customers as partial employees, clarifying their roles in service delivery, training and motivating them to perform well in their roles as co-producers. Gap 4. Prescription. Ensure that delivery matches promises. Managers must work to ensure that delivery matches promise. Some steps may involve seek inputs from operations personnel when new advertising programs are being created, can be immensely helpful in reducing over-communication gaps. Developing advertising that features real employees performing their jobs leads to very genuine expectations. Allowing service providers to preview advertisements before customers are exposed to them helps bringing realness before the communication actually reaches the market. Developing internal education, motivational and advertising campaigns to strengthen links between marketing, operations and human resource departments works under most situations. Ensuring that consistent standards of service are delivered across multiple locations in case of global operations. Ensuring that advertising content accurately reflects upon service characteristics that are most important to customers in their encounter with the organization. Managing customers' expectations by letting them know what is and is not possible and the reasons why helps reasonably bringing down high expectations which are impossible to meet. Identify and explain uncontrollable reasons for shortcomings in service performance. Offer customers different levels of service at different prices, explaining the differences between these levels. Summary. Gap 1. Gap between customer expectations and management perception arises when the management or service provider does not correctly perceive what the customer wants or needs. Gap 2. Gap between management perception and service quality specification. This is when the management or service provider might correctly perceive what the customer wants but may not set a performance standard. Gap 3. Gap between service quality specification and service delivery may arise pertaining to the service personnel. This could arise due to there being poor training, incapability, or unwillingness to meet the set service standard. Gap 4. Gap between service delivery and external communication. Consumers' expectations are highly influenced by statements made by company representatives and advertisements. The gap arises when these assumed expectations are not fulfilled at the time of service delivery. Gap 5. Gap between expected service and experienced service. This gap arises when the consumer misinterprets the service quality. Thank you.